Failure. The one word that scares the hell out of you. The word you've been running from your whole life. Your teachers told you failure was bad. Your parents told you failure was shameful. Society told you failure is the end. And that's why you're broke. That's why you're weak. That's why you live safe, soft lives. Because you've been programmed to fear the very thing that could make you rich. Here's the brutal truth. Failure is not the enemy. Fear of failure is. Failure is a weapon, but only in the hands of killers. For cowards, failure is a graveyard. For warriors, failure is a gold mine. The difference? How you use it. You've been lied to. You've been told that success is about avoiding mistakes, getting it right the first time, playing it safe. That's a lie. Success is built on mountains of failure. Every empire you admire was built by someone who failed more times than you've even tried. The only difference is they didn't melt. They didn't quit. They didn't let failure define them. They weaponized it. You know what failure really is? Feedback. It's data. It's information. It's the universe handing you a lesson most people are too scared to learn. Every time you fail, you're handed the blueprint to your next success. But instead of using it, you cry, you whine, you retreat into safety. You treat failure like a coffin instead of a classroom. And that's why you stay broke. Failure is the tuition you pay for greatness. But most of you want the diploma without paying the tuition. You want the rewards without the scars. You want the glory without the grind. That's not how it works. You want money? You want freedom? You want legacy? Then you'd better learn to love failure, because it's the only teacher that never lies. When you turn failure into a weapon, you become unstoppable. Every no becomes a step toward yes. Every loss becomes a foundation for the win. Every mistake sharpens your edge. The weak cry about failure. The fearless cash in on it. Listen carefully. Failure is the factory where millionaires are made. You think success makes people rich? Wrong. Success is just the byproduct, the raw material, the fuel, the fire. It's failure. Without failure, you can't sharpen yourself. Without failure, you can't learn what doesn't work. Without failure, you never build the courage it takes to win in the big leagues. Every empire you admire was built on a mountain of failures. Henry Ford went bankrupt twice before building Ford Motor Company. Walt Disney was fired for lacking imagination before creating a billion-dollar empire. Steve Jobs was thrown out of the company he built before coming back to make Apple unstoppable. You think they were lucky? No. They failed bigger, faster, harder than you could even stomach, and they weaponized it. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the down payment. And most of you are too cheap to pay it. You want the reward without the rejection, the trophy without the trial, the money without the mistakes. But here's the truth. The price of greatness is failure. If you don't fail, you can't buy in. The reason most of you stay broke is simple. You don't fail enough. You play safe. You stick to the same routines. You never risk enough to fall flat on your face. And so you never get the lessons failure gives. You never get the clarity failure gives. You never get the grit failure gives. And without those, you can't win. Failure is feedback. Every mistake is data. Every rejection is a lesson. Every loss is a blueprint. The rich know this. That's why they take massive risks. They're not addicted to failure. They're addicted to the lessons it teaches, because those lessons can be turned into money, power, and dominance. Let me give you a truth bomb. You can recover from failure, but you can't recover from never trying. Failure is temporary. Fear is permanent. You fail, you learn, you adapt, you move forward. But when you let fear stop you, you rot. You become another snowflake whining about why life isn't fair, while killers are cashing checks from the very risks you were too scared to take. And here's the brutal reality. Money doesn't go to the smartest. Money doesn't go to the safest. Money doesn't go to the hardest worker. Money goes to the one who took the failure, turned it into a formula, and used it to build. That's why broke geniuses exist. That's why hardworking people die poor. They avoided the one thing that could have saved them: failure. Failure creates resilience. Resilience creates courage. Courage creates wealth. That's the chain. Break it anywhere and you stay broke. But embrace it, and suddenly failure becomes a weapon you can point at any problem, any obstacle, any enemy in your way. You want to know the difference between losers and killers? Losers see failure as a coffin. Killers see failure as a classroom. Losers quit after one mistake. Killers double down, adjust, and strike again. Losers melt at rejection. Killers sharpen their edge on it. So let me slap you awake with this. If you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. If you're not failing, you're playing too small. If you're not failing, you're already broke. You just don't know it yet. The richest people in the world have failed more than anyone you've ever met. That's why they're rich. They've simply paid the tuition of failure more times than you've even enrolled in the class. And until you do the same, you'll keep living paycheck to paycheck, crying about why life isn't fair. Failure is not the enemy. Failure is the weapon. The only question is whether you're brave enough to use it. Scars, you hate them, I love them. You hide them, I wear them like trophies. Every scar tells me one thing. I tried, I fought, I risked. I went into the arena while everyone else sat in the cheap seats. Scars mean you lived, you learned, and you've got proof that you didn't melt like a snowflake. Most of you spend your lives covering your scars. You want to look perfect. You want to look polished. You want to look like you've never failed. That's pathetic. The world doesn't respect perfection. The world respects resilience. People don't follow the ones who never fall. They follow the ones who fall, get back up, and keep swinging until they win. Here's the brutal truth. Scars are strategy. Every mistake you've made has given you data. Every loss has given you leverage. Every failure has given you experience that soft, untested people will never have. But you don't use it. You bury it. You cry about it. You hide it like it's shameful instead of turning it into a weapon. The rich don't hide scars. They monetize them. They take failures, flip them into lessons, build systems around them, and sell the results. You think entrepreneurs succeed because they never mess up? Wrong. They succeed because they mess up faster, they learn faster, and they turn their mistakes into blueprints. Think about it. You launch a business, it fails. You could quit, cry, and go back to your safe little job, or you could analyze why it failed, fix it, and launch the next one stronger. That scar just became strategy. That failure just became leverage. That pain just became profit. Every rejection you faced is leverage. You know what doesn't work. You know what doesn't sell. You know what the market hates. That's valuable data, but only if you stop treating rejection like a funeral and start treating it like research. You've been taught to avoid scars. I'm telling you to collect them, because every scar is proof you fought. Every scar is proof you tested the limits. Every scar is proof you're not just another snowflake hiding from life. And the more scars you carry, the sharper your strategy becomes. Do you want to know the most dangerous person in any room? It's not the smartest. It's not the loudest. It's the one with the most scars. Because scars mean experience. Scars mean resilience. Scars mean they know 10 ways not to die, 10 ways not to lose, 10 ways not to quit. And that kind of knowledge can't be taught. It has to be earned. But you snowflakes, you avoid scars. You avoid pain. You avoid discomfort. And that's why you're weak, broke, and soft. You've built your whole life around avoiding the very thing that could make you unstoppable. Let me tell you something. Scars don't make you weaker. They make you bulletproof. Scars teach you patterns. They show you what works and what doesn't. They force you to adapt. They give you the courage to take bigger risks because you've already survived the small ones. Every time you fall, you're building a strategy. Every time you fail, you're sharpening your edge. Every time you scar, you're becoming more dangerous. That's how you weaponize failure. You turn scars into strategies that make you money, power, and freedom. So stop hiding your scars. Stop being ashamed of your mistakes. Stop treating failure like a disease. Start treating it like the weapon it is, because scars aren't the end of your story. They're the beginning of your empire. Now fear, that's the real killer, not failure, not rejection, not mistakes. Fear. Fear is the silent poison that keeps you broke, safe, and invisible. Fear makes you melt before you even step into the fight. Fear convinces you not to try, not to risk, not to push, not to dream. Failure doesn't ruin lives. Fear does. Listen to me. Failure is temporary. Fear is permanent. You fail, you get back up, you try again, you get stronger. Fear freezes you forever. Fear keeps you on the sidelines while the killers are out on the field scoring. Fear convinces you that safety is smart, when in reality, safety is the most expensive decision you'll ever make. You've been trained to fear failure since birth. Don't fail this test. Don't fail at sports. Don't fail in front of people. Every message you've received is built around avoiding failure. And so what happens? You never even try. You spend your whole life avoiding mistakes instead of chasing greatness. And the price of that mindset is mediocrity. Failure teaches you. Failure gives you scars. Scars give you strategies. Strategies give you wealth. Fear gives you nothing. Fear robs you blind. Fear steals your time, your opportunities, your courage, your future. Fear whispers in your ear, play it safe. And you listen, and then you wonder why you're broke. Let me make this brutal. You can recover from failure, but you will never recover from fear. You can lose everything and rebuild. You can fall flat on your face and rise. But if you live in fear, you'll never even swing. You'll die with your music still inside you, and no one will ever know your name. The richest people in the world aren't fearless because they never felt fear. They're fearless because they acted anyway. They took the risk. They swallowed the rejection. They faced the humiliation. And they built empires while the rest of the world hid behind excuses. Most of you are broke not because you failed, but because you were too scared to fail. You chose safety. You chose comfort. You chose to melt. And in doing so, you chose poverty. Don't tell me life is unfair. Don't tell me you didn't get a chance. You had a chance. You were just too scared to take it. Fear of debt keeps you poor. Fear of risk keeps you average. Fear of rejection keeps you invisible. Fear of failure keeps you small. But failure itself, failure is your ally. Failure sharpens you. Fear weakens you. So here's the truth. Stop fearing failure. Start fearing fear, because failure will make you rich if you use it. Fear will keep you broke until the day you die. Here's the truth. Most of you will die broke, not because you didn't have the talent, not because you didn't have the opportunity, but because you were too scared to fail. You let fear chain you down. You avoided the very scars that could have made you unstoppable. And you wasted the one life you had playing it safe. That's the brutal truth. Failure is not your enemy. Failure is your greatest weapon. Every mistake is a lesson. Every scar is strategy. Every loss is leverage. The people who get rich aren't the ones who avoided failure. They're the ones who collected it, studied it, and used it to sharpen their edge. Fear, on the other hand, will strangle you. Fear will rob you of decades. Fear will keep you clinging to a paycheck you hate, staying in relationships that drain you, living in cities that suffocate you, surrounding yourself with losers who never push you higher. Fear is the real disease, and most of you are infected. So here's my challenge. Flip the script. Stop seeing failure as an ending and start seeing it as the beginning. Stop crying about scars and start wearing them as armor. Stop melting every time life spits in your face and start turning those moments into blueprints for wealth. You want money? Then stop being scared to fail for it. You want freedom? Then stop being scared to risk for it. You want legacy? Then stop being scared to bleed for it. Because here's the final truth. The world doesn't remember the safe. The world doesn't celebrate the cowards. The world doesn't care about the snowflakes who played it careful. The world remembers the killers, the bold, the fearless, the ones who turned failure into fire, scars into strategy, pain into power, and setbacks into comebacks. When you learn to weaponize failure, you stop being stoppable. You stop being fragile. You stop being controlled by fear. You become untouchable. You become relentless. You become the one who can't be killed because you've already died 100 times in failure and come back stronger every single time. So stop fearing failure. Start fearing regret, because failure will cost you months, maybe years, but regret will cost you your soul. And if you take nothing else from this speech, take this. Failure is the tuition for greatness. Pay it, embrace it, and use it, because it's the only currency that will buy you freedom. The choice is yours. Melt like a snowflake or rise like a killer. Stay broke or weaponize failure into wealth. Play it safe or play to win. Choose wisely.